to the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council media briefing for week ending August 4, 2012. Beginning his address, the Chief Secretary congratulates the stakeholders of the Tobago Heritage Festival.
Obviously, as with every other event, there are still areas where we can improve, but I think I did see some encouraging signs this year. Among them, of course, would have been that fantastic opening night, and I am very pleased that the Tobago Heritage Festival Commission and the division have ensured that it would be utilized for marketing purposes, and the DVD for the opening night is now available, and I'm hoping that it would be utilized by all the relevant agencies as we market to Tobago, so that within the next week the country would be getting information as to how these CDs could be sourced. But I want to compliment the Tobago Heritage Festival Committee and the division for that initiative in ensuring that the images of that opening night will be made available and will be there for posterity.
Mr. London expressed his disappointment at the lack of public participation for the Emancipation Day celebrations.
I am still not totally satisfied with the level of participation from the public, and I think that we as Tobagonians have got to understand that the whole idea of emancipation can only be successful if all Tobagonians, or a large percentage of the people in Tobago, understand the reason why we're having the celebration and are to some extent influenced by what is happening. And I just want to repeat a sentiment that I would have expressed yesterday at Pigeon Point, when I indicated that when one looks at slavery was imposed on us as Africans because of the self-interest and the economic interests of the colonial masters. But I also want to remind us that emancipation was also granted because of the self-interest and the economic interests of the colonial masters. And I think one of the lessons that has to be learned from emancipation is that you do not get anything as a people because of love or sympathy from other people. And therefore, we have to understand that our foreparents were able to achieve not because anybody loved them or sympathized with them, but they were able to achieve because of their own efforts and their own resilience and their own courage and their own fortitude and their own focus. And if there is one lesson that I want Tobagonians to glean from that whole emancipation experience, it is that you do not get anything as a people because somebody loves you or somebody sympathizes with you. Most people, most units, most institutions, most groups are in fact influenced by their own self-interest. And if you don't take care of your own interests, the odds are that very few people will.
The Chief Secretary then looked at the nation's 50th anniversary of independence.
I do not believe that one celebrates the 50th anniversary of independence with a celebration lasting a day or a week. In the same way that we celebrated our 30th anniversary of the Tobago House of Assembly with a year-long series of activities, we are hoping to do something similar in celebrating the 50th anniversary. And we would have started it yesterday when we would have, of course, commissioned the Eternal Light at the James Park. That event we consider to be highly symbolic because it does, as I said when we opened it, signify or symbolize hope It symbolizes confidence and, of course, the realization that the battle for independence, the battle for improved quality of life, is an unending battle in which all should be involved. And as part of our move towards the 50th anniversary celebrations, the Division of Finance and Enterprise Development would have produced this document celebrating the Tobago spirit after 50 years of independence. We will make a copy available to each of you, and of course copies are available to the general public, and you will be notified as to when and how you can, of course, access these. In the initial stages, we'll be giving the copies to the various institutions and the schools, etc. But we'll ensure that members of the public do have an opportunity to share in this. And I think it's an excellent document. It does give quite a good history of what transpired, especially in Tobago over the last 50 years, and also what is happening in Tobago at present, and how we intend or vision for the future. So basically, this is going to be made available to you, and the public will be notified as to how they can access the document.
The issue of the review of the THA Act versus the Green Paper was again highlighted.
Now, as you know, I would have gone to Trinidad a couple of weeks ago, held a press conference, but before the press conference, I would have sent documents to the Prime Minister, to the Chairman of the Committee on Public Consultation on the Green Paper on Internal Self-Government, and the Chairman of the Law Reform Commission. And not surprisingly, I got response from the Chairman of the Law Reform Commission, and also a response from the Chairman of the committee, Dr. Ghani, but I got no response from the Prime Minister. The response from Dr. Ghani acknowledged the receipt of the letter and then indicated, my colleagues on the Committee for the Public Consultation on the Green Paper on Internal Self-Government for Tobago have noted your letter and its enclosures, because you remember that I have also not only sent a letter indicating my concern about the process and the fact that we had a process which was attempting to undermine a valid, democratic, transparent process initiated in Tobago, but I have also sent a copy of the two bills which were approved by the people of Tobago, and a copy of a petition entitled Tobago's Voice Must Be Heard, a People's Motion, and a copy of the list of close to 6,000 signatories to that petition. And he said, we shall consider your submission in relation to the Green Paper, together with all the other submissions we received. The response from the Law Reform Commission indicated that they have already transmitted to the Attorney General my views, which were submitted to them in a previous correspondence, and therefore they are aware, and I am aware, that the Attorney General does have in his possession the wishes and the recommendations of the people of Tobago. I will be very interested to see how the central government responds to this. But I think I need to respond to a perception or maybe a position taken by the Attorney General and supported by the TOP in Tobago. And I want to look at it from the perspective of the Attorney General, and then from the perspective of the TOP and the leadership in Tobago. As far as I'm concerned, the Attorney General has a responsibility to protect the Constitution and the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. His major responsibility is not the protection of the Prime Minister. And therefore, the Attorney General should not believe that it is his duty to prevent me, as Chief Secretary of Tobago, to follow the dictates of the Tobago House of Assembly, Clause 31, and to request a meeting with the Prime Minister on matters that treat with the administrative and legal matters affecting the relationship between Tobago and Trinidad, matters which could, of course, lead to disharmony, and matters, if resolved, can promote harmony between the two islands, as the Tobago House of Assembly Act had indicated. And I want to give the Attorney General the assurance that I will continue, as is my duty, as is my responsibility, to seek meetings with the Prime Minister on this matter or on any other matter which I think is important to the welfare and the well-being of the people of Tobago. And I will make no apologies to the Attorney General or anybody for carrying out what I consider to be my responsibility. My first responsibility is to the people of Tobago. It is because of the people of Tobago I'm holding this position, and therefore I will do whatsoever is necessary to ensure that the views of the people of Tobago are heard and that the people of Tobago are not disadvantaged in any way. In respect to the positions taken by the TOP and its leadership, I think it shows very clearly where their priorities are. And it is obvious at this point in time that their priority is not the welfare of the people of Tobago. Their priority is obviously ensuring that they do everything possible to toe the line where their puppet masters in Trinidad and at central government are concerned. And I have absolutely no problem with that. But the fact that they are not willing to carry out their responsibility to the people of Tobago is no reason why the other members of the Tobago House of Assembly must follow in their footsteps. And therefore, while they will continue to give very spurious reasons why they cannot take positions which will benefit the people of Tobago, this administration will continue to struggle in the interests of the people. And regardless of what the situation is, we have confidence that the people of Tobago, in the final analysis, will understand and appreciate who is in fact operating in their own interests.
Recently, the Chief Secretary, along with the Chief Administrator and members from the Division of Finance, met with the Finance Minister.
We had an opportunity, I think the meeting would have lasted about 90 minutes, and we had an opportunity during those 90 minutes to brief the Minister, who is no stranger to Tobago and the Tobago House of Assembly in another incarnation, as to what we consider to be some of our concerns and some of our issues. And hopefully, if those issues are addressed, or if we start addressing those issues, a number of the areas of discontent might in fact be, to a certain extent, alleviated. And one of the first issues that I raised with him is the question of communication. And I made it very clear, and the Minister agreed, that if we do not communicate effectively, there is a very strong possibility that our credibility would be undermined in the public domain. And I do reference to the situation with respect to the $100 million for the Ministry of Health. The Minister signed the warrant on the 5th of July. But up to the point where we had that meeting with the Minister, not only was that $100 million not in our bank account, but even our fourth quarter monies, which should have been there by the first of the month, that too was not in our bank account. No fault of the Minister, but the reality is that he was operating from what he did. We were operating from what we knew had happened and the state of our finances, and we had that disconnect. So we agreed that we need to ensure that we're on the same page when we make public statements. I was also able to indicate to the minister that what the Tobago House of Assembly has done, and I think that this is going to help all of us, is that we have completed a review of our Comprehensive Economic Development Plan. And that review of the Comprehensive Economic Development Plan has given us an insight into the areas of strength, the areas of weaknesses, and of course, those things that we can start doing and maybe do more effectively as we go forward. And I indicated to the minister that in those circumstances, there were a couple issues that I think, about which he should be aware. The first was that, as everybody knows, the tourism sector is under pressure. But one of the areas where we can have very, very quick relief is in continuing to strengthen domestic tourism. But there's a situation in Tobago about which a number of people are not aware. And that is, we do not attract the high-end market from Trinidad. Whereas in the case of Grenada and many of the islands of the Caribbean, the Trinidad visitor accounts for between 20 and 25%. In the case of Tobago, although we get a large number of visitors from Trinidad, the majority of the high-end visitors do not come to Tobago for the simple reason that there is no predictability on the air bridge. And therefore, somebody in Trinidad who can afford to stay in a hotel in Tobago, recognizing that he or she and their families cannot be assured of a booking to Tobago and a booking back from Tobago, will prefer to go to St. Lucia or Grenada or even Miami because it is cheaper and more convenient. And the statistics show that we do not get the volume of high-end traffic from Trinidad that we should. And I indicated to the minister, who is also the line minister for Caribbean Airlines, that except that Caribbean airline traffic becomes more predictable, we will continue to lose that segment of the Trinidad market. And therefore, there's a need to look at that and to provide the kind of capacity that will bring confidence to the Trinidad market and allow us to be able to tap in to this very, very valuable market, that very valuable resource. And I think he was sympathetic to that situation. We also spoke about the whole question of the diversification of the economy and the use of and the utilization of Cove. As you're aware, the factory shell at Cove, one factory shell should be completed by the end of this month. A second factory shell should be completed by the end of December. And we indicated in those circumstances that he should take a very clinical view of our request for the use of Cove as a special development area. That request has been made or had been made to the Minister of Trade and the Minister of Finance. The previous minister was aware of it, and we felt that it seemed a very simple thing to be done, and we're still a little bit concerned as to why it has not come to fruition, and we placed that on the table. And we also placed on the table the question of housing. And I think this is something about which the people of Tobago must be aware. And this is not something that is, peculiar to this particular administration. Whereas at the central government level, funding for housing is normally through loans, raising of bonds, etc., but off-budget funding. We have never been able to persuade any administration that when that funding is sourced by the central government, a percentage of that should come to Tobago. So we have a situation where every house that we build in Tobago, we build it with cash from our resources and our development resources, which obviously means that we always at a disadvantage when compared to Trinidad. And therefore we made a request of the minister that when funding is sourced for housing in the country of Trinidad and Tobago, that Tobago should get an equitable portion so that we can be in the same position and not be behind the 8 ball as we have been to date. As I said, we were able to discuss these and other issues, but I think one of the things that we agreed upon is that we should have regular non-crisis meetings where we can discuss those issues in a non-confrontational manner, and therefore give us a better chance that we will be successful. I want to make it very clear that we have been very fortunate in that we have had relatively good relations with all the ministers of finance down through the years. I cannot think of a minister of finance with which we had an adversarial relationship. But the point about it is that with all the good relations, there are a number of issues that have never been resolved. One of the issues, for example, for which there has to be some closure, is how is the Dispute Resolution Commission going to really be interpreted? The Dispute Resolution Commission says, and the report says that we should have in Tobago, the Tobago House of Assembly should get somewhere between 4.03% and 6.9% of the national budget. Now the question is, what is the national budget? In fiscal 2011, when you had the initial national budget, we got our 4.03%. When they went back to Parliament and got additional resources, we got 4.03% of that, because it was interpreted that 4.03% is 4.03% of the total national budget. This year, we would have got 4.03%, which is the absolute minimum of the initial budgetary allocation to Trinidad and Tobago. The government has gone back twice to Parliament for additional resources, and Tobago has not got any of that. So when you look at it, and you look at the total allocation for Tobago, for Trinidad and Tobago, Tobago would have got less than it should be under the Dispute Resolution Commission. And that is something that we asked the minister to address, because there is still time for the arithmetic to be done.
The media was then made aware of the demolition of the Plymouth jetty and the construction of a ramp at Mount Irving.
Mount Irving, as you know, is an area where a number of people go to do aerobics and so on. And it does help individuals who are on the road to recovery from strokes and various kinds of disabilities. And they've been having serious problems in accessing the beach, or not the beach, sorry, the water, because of a ramp that has been destroyed. Now, a lot of people have said, why don't you do a temporary thing? That's what they tell me. But what the experts have indicated to me is that you can't do a temporary thing, because the reason why we have the challenge is that what was done before, sooner, very, very soon, it was washed away. And therefore, if you do a temporary thing, it's going to be very, very temporary. So the Division of Tourism had to go out and get consultants, and I'm very happy to indicate that the tenders were received, they were evaluated, and a contractor has been identified, and mobilization should take place within a week or two. And it is not, as I said, it is not a little thing. In fact, that contract is going to be in the vicinity of $700,000. I'm just revealing that in order for us to understand that sometimes you ask yourself, why the assembly not doing something? Is it because we heartless, etc.? But sometimes it is because the task is a little bit more serious than, a layperson could make it out to be. And that is why we have to go to the experts, and the engineers and the consultants would have advised, and they would have designed it, and based on the design, we now have this. But I'm very happy that the Secretary of Tourism was able to give us the assurance that the contract would be awarded and work should start. I am not, they're saying here the projected construction period is 6 weeks because it is not a simple project, so that I'm hoping that by the end of September, early October, once they do the mobilization quickly and there are no challenges with the weather, etc., because as you're all aware, the weather, as we speak, there's a weather pattern forming off Tobago. We hope that it doesn't develop and doesn't come our way. But I'm just saying that all things being equal, by the end of September, early October, we hope to bring relief to those persons. So I'm asking them to bear with us as we try to treat with this situation. And while we're on the subject of the sea and ramps and so on, I also wish to indicate that today we took a decision at the Executive Council based on a note coming from the Division of Agriculture, Marine Affairs, Marketing and the Environment, that we will demolish the Plymouth jetty in the interest of public safety. And again, I want to explain to the people of Tobago why this would have taken so long. That jetty does not belong to the Tobago House of Assembly. And in fact, we have been threatened with legal action on more than one occasion when efforts were made to do something about it. But our legal advice at this time is that as the Tobago House of Assembly, we have the right, in fact, we have the responsibility in the interest of public safety to have the jetty demolished, and we will do so. So that that decision has been taken, and the division has now been charged with the responsibility to operationalize that decision. And I will expect that work on that, at least the first part, which is the removal of the part that is abutting the land, that should take place within a week or two, or work on that should start within a week or two.
Thank you for viewing the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing for week ending August 4th, 2012. For the Department of Information, I am Sophie Gill.